Because basically it's talking about our weaknesses and the personality type, I guess. So the format tonight is Stuart's going to give us sort of 20 to 30 minute presentation, and then we'll open up for Q&A, and then we'll break halfway through, and in the second half Jen's organised some questions and some information.
Wow.
And we'll break into 3 or 4 groups, and we can discuss more about them and see how we go. And yeah, so over to you, Jem. Thank you.
Alright, welcome. I'm just going to do a little brief introduction to the MBTI function stack. So for each type, we have to have four functions. So the first one is the dominant function, the second one is auxiliary, and the third one is tertiary function, and the fourth one, which we're going to be talking about tonight, is inferior. So that's basically a rundown. And the dominant one is called dominant because that is our dominant one that we use without sort of thinking. It's just the one that's we just know how to do basically. And then the second one is sort of helps the first one. It's sort of the outward expression, how you interact with others, how you sort of gather information, and that sort of feeds the first one. The third one is less well developed, and it's sort of developed a little bit more later in life. And then the fourth one is sort of the inferior function, or in other models they call it the 3-year-old function. So it's basically, not that well developed, and I'll talk about how it's expressed here and also in stressful situations. So is that sort of clear-ish?
Just clarify that last point about what you mean by 3-year-olds, and also the third function.
I'm going to go into that in the talk, so yeah. Cool. All right. Okay, stress. So I'm just going to give a little brief introduction to stress. Everyone knows, has experienced stress, but I'm just going to put it in our minds just so it's there, so we're doing an introduction. So this is stress. Basically, it's the body's reaction to any sort of change, and how we deal with that. It can be mental, physical, emotional. And one of the things here is, so the sources are environment, your body, and your thoughts. So what I want to point out here is, in today's modern society, a lot of the stress comes from perceived threats. So we don't actually have that flight or fight response. So we sort of store up all these stress chemicals. And this is potentially why we sort of end up in a good war. And if say if a wild animal's running at us and we have to get away, so then we have that flight or fight response and then we use up all the chemicals. But these days they sort of just store them unless you're sort of exercising every day, etc., etc. So just to bear in mind that your thoughts are a big thing, especially when we're talking about MBTI and how we process information. So some symptoms. You all know the symptoms of stress. I'll just put a few there. So headaches, grinding teeth, can't sleep, hypertension, etc., etc. So stress burn calories. That's this model, which I'm not. Okay, so moving on to typology and stress. So with typology, it can help explain some of our behaviours when we're actually stressed. Everyone sort of is a product of their environment and also their genes, and so we each have our individual, the way we grew up, different factors that have made us us. But this is sort of talking about in general terms, like different types in terms of the inferior function and how that is expressed in sort of across that particular type. So as I said, the inferior function is the one that sort of comes out when we're in stress situations, and it's expressed in a unhealthy way, which we'll go into. As well, just a general point. So when you sort of understand your type, and then you can work out how you're processing information, and then you can use that awareness to help you better react in different situations and be aware of how you're thinking, how you're behaving. So, yeah. Can everyone hear me, by the way? Yep. Okay, so stress in the MBTI. So it can manifest in a few different ways. So under moderate stress, what we get is the exaggeration of the dominant function, which means we put all our energy into this function, and the other ones, sort of lose out. For an example, like I think I'm an INFP, and my dominant function is in introverted feeling, and so in sort of stressful, or if I'm in a situation where I'm feeling stressed, my first reaction is to go right within myself and delve in and try and work it out then. So I sort of go very inward and shut off stuff. So I stop sort of looking outward, stop trying to find possibilities, and I put all that effort into that function. So that's sort of under moderate stress. Yeah. And then under severe or prolonged stress, there's a few different reactions, and I'm going to talk about these a little bit more in a minute. So the first one is loops. So we get a loop between the dominant and the tertiary function. So basically, just create this sort of feedback loop, and you just get stuck in this. It's sort of like if you ever experience going around in circles in your head. You just sort of get something, and it just keeps going round and round, and you just feel like stuck. So this is what that is. And then the other one, which is the main one I'm going to talk about, is in the grip. So this is basically when you've sort of tried to do your first function, didn't work, tried to do the second one, didn't work, third one didn't work, and then basically your fourth function or your inferior function takes over. And it's an immature expression of this, which I'll explain in a minute. So just a little bit on this. Basically, it's like swearing in your native tongue. Because your dominant function is sort of, you do it unconsciously, and it's just an instant sort of reaction. And that's the one you gravitate to first because that's what you know and that's what you're good at. So you try and put your energy into that usually. Yeah, basically what I just said. So basically we lose access to our auxiliary function, which sort of balances out our dominant function. So for me, for example, if I go inward, my second function is extroverted intuition, which basically means it's sort of looking out to the world and looking at all the possibilities. It's this expansive sort of function. So if I lose access to that, I sort of shut off. So if I'm trying to solve a problem or I'm trying to end a stressful situation, the healthy way would be to remain open, to look at different possibilities to see which one would actually work best. But because I'm stressed, the first reaction is to go inward and try and figure it out rather than remaining outward and looking at the possibilities. So that's sort of my thing. Other types do different things, but that's an example. Another example, so someone with dominant SE, so like an ENTJ, or I don't know if we can rate this or not, I wasn't sure. ESTB. Yeah. That'll be long. So, have we got an ESTP? Yeah. Would you relate to that at all? So when you're in a moderate stress, when you sort of go towards your dominant function, so the extroverted sensing.
Yeah.
Yep.
No.
Except you change the type every week. Alright, so this is sort of what a loop looks like. In your head, it just goes around and round and round and round and round. Yeah. I was trying to make this visualization of what this is.
So just a few examples. As an INFP, as I was saying before, basically it cuts out the auxiliary function. So you go from the first to the third function in this loop, and one sort of corrects the other, and it just keeps going round and round. I'll just put these up. So this is a few examples. Can you relate to these? Yeah.
In mine is BNTP, but it's the same one.
Yeah. Anyway, there's a few examples which you can read later. So, alright. So, heading on to in the group. So, maybe you get stressed over losing ice cream. I don't know,
That's the worst thing that can happen.
Alright. So this is a little brief rundown of the inferior functions, or the fourth function. So we think we've got it when we're stressed, and maybe we have that reaction. I just thought it was fun. So it's the fourth or least developed function. Sometimes it's called the unconscious function. And I refer to it as being a 3-year-old function before. So there's a few different, so the MBTI calls them the first, second, third, fourth, or dominant, auxiliary, tertiary, and inferior functions. There's another website called Personality Hacker, and they've developed a model called car model. So imagine if you're in a car and you've got the driver's seat, and then you've got the passenger seat, and then 2 seats behind. So the driver's seat is your first function or dominant function. That's the one that's you know how to do best. You're driving it, it's in control most of the time. The passenger seat on the front side is your auxiliary function. The tertiary one they call the 10-year-old function, just because that's sort of the level that it's at. So it's basically a teenage function. And then
Which you develop.
which you develop later. So you, when you're younger, you're basically using your dominant function and potentially a bit of your second auxiliary function. And then the third and the fourth functions develop later. That's why they call it a 3-year-old function, because that's sort of just to give a picture of where it's at in terms of maturity. So
is that when you try to lose
well, that's it. Like, when you throw a tantrum, you sort of become someone else, and then you sort of flip. So you become an immature expression of that function. So So basically, like a 3-year-old. The inferior function develops later in life, so probably in the 30s, 40s. It depends on how you grew up. Like if you discovered your MBTI type earlier in life, maybe you would have developed it and spent more time developing it earlier. It depends on, like for me, one of my best friends is the 9TP, and he developed my third function, which is extroverted thinking, introverted sensing, just by having, extroverted thinking, my fourth function, because he really made me, like my arguments were quite emotive, and he really made me stop and actually have to put logical thought to every single argument, otherwise he just, because INTPs, they don't really like arguments that are based on feeling, has to be logic and reason, so that sort of pushed my development of the inferior function, but it depends on, your friends, who your friends are, how your family was, environment, etc. So, sort of gone through all that. The other last point, I've got some in here. The fourth function can also be expressed in a positive way. I just thought I'd mention that just because we're dealing now with the negative expression of it, but it can also have a positive expression. And I've got a little bit of information on that here, which you can have a look at later. I've just got a little visualization. I know I'm using myself as much as this, but that's what I know. So normal normal function stack, you've got the dominant function, which is the sort of the biggest. There's different variations of this in Dave's superpowers. He has it in a slightly different way, but I'm just going to go with this one for the moment. So the dominant is that's why it's the biggest, then auxiliary, tertiary, and inferior. So this is sort of a normal functioning healthy person. And then when you're in the group, the inferior function basically jumps the stack and becomes the first one that we use in that moment. Yeah, so that's sort of clear. Yeah. So yeah. So when we in the group basically means when the inferior function is taken over, so they've sort of turned it in the grip or in a rut, or basically when we're highly stressed. So yeah, so under prolonged stress, you can also, I didn't put it in here, but it can also be triggered if you're, I don't know, if you're sort of taking alcohol or drugs, or what other ones, like from environmental things. Like there's a few other things that can trigger, but we're sort of looking at stress, which is sort of the main one that gets triggered by. So yeah, said that. One thing I've noticed is that we can sort of develop, when we're stressed, we sort of develop tunnel vision, so everything else sort of, and we only see what we want to see. Yeah, has everyone sort of experienced that sort of tunnel vision? Yeah, so you sort of block out everything else everybody says because you're right. As I said, it comes out in the sort of immature way, like a 3-year-old having a tantrum. So it's childlike, yeah, effective basically. We can also sort of get radical behavioural changes. So sometimes when you're stressed, you can appear like someone, like the flip side, like an unhealthy version of the flip side of this example. So for me, I think it's like probably like an unhealthy ESTJ. So I've been trying to like just get everything done, sort of bossing people around, and like because I'm trying to use my extrovert thinking, which is my inferior, and so it's sort of an unhealthy expression of that. So if that makes sense. Another thing is we can sort of get addicted to it a little bit. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Have you been addicted to it?
Yeah, I think when I get through like periods where I'm getting lots of stuff done, like you write a list and you do it, and it feels really good because you feel like, yeah, I'm getting somewhere, but it only lasts for a very short period. But it's sort of, it's like something you're not normally really good at, but when you do it well, it's sort of like, oh, I get a rush from that. So that's why it's like, I want to do that, try and do that more and more, but you realise after a while, you're not that great at it. So it sort of burns out a lot of energy if you're trying to do that all the time. So that's sort of why it is a bit addictive. Yeah. Has anyone got any questions or anything, by the way? Just a little bit more. Yeah, so basically, there's a few sort of things people feel like when you're stressed in the group. These sort of common expressions like, I didn't feel like that was me, I felt like I changed to someone else, felt beside myself. So, has everyone experienced this sort of, yep. Yeah, it feels like being out of control, so yeah. Yeah, so we all manifest it a bit differently. And yeah, we all require something a little bit different to get out of our in the group or in the experience. So, yeah. Right, so these are going to play, but I don't have sound, but they've sort of got little explanations in them. So this is a YouTube channel called Sarah MBTI, and she has quite a few cool videos, and she does some which sort of takes snippets from movies and other things to find examples of MBTI stuff. So this one, she had a series of in the group experiences. They can be a little bit extreme, but it sort of gives you an example of yeah, what it's like. So I thought this one was quite good. Sound. That's just realistic.
Not strict.
Anyway, we couldn't get the sound working last minute, so yeah, I'll put them all the links up and you guys can have a look at them. Yeah. Anyway.
I think they're useful to play.
Sorry?
Play them. Cool. Yes.
This is ENTJ. This is basically how I'm.
Yeah. Can you relate? Anna?
My friend's an ENTJ. Did I tell you that story? Of one of her colleagues. She's now the bar. Her colleague, her staff member accused her of you're just an efficiency type person.
Like the whole side of it.
She's like, what? You're at work.
That's a good thing, you know what's
What do you
up.
mean I'm an efficiency type person?
Yeah.
She's an ENTJ. She's now she's the bar. Carrie's the bar. We were just talking about that.
She plays it really well. It's all doom and gloom.
Do you know what type you are?
INFJ.
Insensitive to criticism.
No, this one.
She's in that state of mind. It's all doom and gloom.
Have you seen the movie?
Yeah. I saw that clip a few weeks ago.
I'll post it on the app, on the page.
No, I did my research because I was fascinated with the Greek stuff. Between her and Julia Roberts. She's good.
Anyway. So yeah, you can have a look at the later. Sorry about the sound. Anyway. So yeah, escaping the grip. You just get out our crayons and gouache from each other if you want. So I'm going to go through a few strategies quickly that some people have sort of suggested to get out of it. Yeah. Alright, so there's a website called Personality Junkie, and I don't know if he or she is a real doctor or not, but Dr. AJ Trent. So they've suggested, sounds good, let's put forward three strategies for dealing with a group. First one is avoiding indulging, second crunching, and third is understanding and integrating. So we'll go through them. So basically, this one is you trying to avoid your inferior function at all costs. So whenever you feel like sort of the desires or of that inferior function, you just try and shut it down and so Or the other way is you sort of go binging on it. So you sort of indulge it for a while, and then you realise, then you sort of shut it off and then indulge it. Sort of like binge drinking, really. You sort of have a go, and then you realise, oh, this is really great, and then you keep coming back to it. So basically, it's this sort of cycle of avoiding it and indulging it, avoiding it and indulging it. Yeah, basically a love-hate relationship. So this is the first strategy. Yeah, not all that healthy, but it's a strategy a lot of people use. Second one is crutching. So we use different strategies to appease the inferior function. So some of these are persisting in unhealthy relationships, clinging to a comforting set of beliefs, or continuing an unsatisfying job for the sake of security. Yeah.
That definition almost everyone's in.
Oh, no, yeah.
That's rubbish.
Yeah, so it's like the more idealistic types see this maybe as a mediocre solution, whereas others say maybe it's just part of human life, which is what you just said.
Right.
So, yeah.
Let's call it things
Alright.
Yeah.
So the third one, should be understanding the door. It should be integrating, sorry guys. Understanding and integrating. So basically, this is about learning about your inferior function, learning about how it expresses itself, how you have in the past indulged it or avoided it, or other things that you've done. Yeah, and basically becoming aware of how you're using that, and when you are basically when you're in a stress situation, sort of taking a step back and going, hang on, what's my brain doing? What are my thoughts doing? How am I behaving? And why? Or even maybe not in a stress situation, but post that and sort of have a look. Yeah. Yeah, so basically learning how it influences your behaviour and your thoughts. And in this way, when you become more aware of it, then you can actually learn to deal with it more. So this is sort of the healthy way to actually to look at it. Yeah, I think so. Maybe. One thing I say is this can be a scary process because the inferior function is a little bit more unconscious, so we sort of tend to shy away from it. So, and because it develops later in life, we're not used to sort of dealing with it. And when we sort of confront it, it can be quite confronting to our ego or to our behaviour patterns, our thought patterns. So it sort of takes us to become really honest with ourselves about how we're actually dealing with stress and behaving in these ways, and then it's actually so to come to that sort of point of acceptance and understanding, and then you can actually use it and integrate it into your life. So yeah.
So do you know why we develop it later in life? Is it like menopause and midlife crisis?
I don't know if that's the analogy I'm use, but I think that's.
Like, why is it not already there?
You think it is? Well, I don't know. It's a good question. I'm not sure. Like that's the way they've sort of set the functionality stack up, and it's
Well, it takes 20 years just to grow up.
Yeah.
I think the theory is that you reach if you're a 1-year-old, all your functions are as a 1-year-old does. When you're 3 years old and your full function stops growing. So it's like filling up a glass of water. So your full function is different sizes of cups. So once you're 3 years old, that cup is full. So even though everything's growing, one of the most capacity is your first function.
And I mean, if they did all grow, Lana,
we wouldn't have any weaknesses. You know, it's just part of the personality. So the things that our strengths and things we're strong at are our first couple of functions, and our weaknesses, that sometimes we're not even aware of, are our weaker functions.
But also, like, as we get older, we're using our dominant and auxiliary functions more, and so we have a better understanding of ourselves, and then we can have that energy and willpower or thought power to actually process and deal with the inferior functions as well. Like, so when we're young, we're sort of using all that information, all that to sort of develop ourselves and learn things and everything. So yeah, maybe that's also still why. So, but good question. There's a few other strategies I've found. Just want to mention. This lady actually wrote a few books on Enneagram, so if you want to delve deeper, you can. So she says basically to work on your auxiliary function to get out. Yeah, basically to balance it out. Yeah, like that's the auxiliary function is, they sort of talk about it as the one that you use to sort of express yourself, you interact with other people. So that's sort of the outward one. So when you're developing that, you sort of yeah, basically sort of balances out the other function. Yeah. So, and I think it was the example I gave before, where we're not, like if I'm stressed, I go inward. But if I focus on the auxiliary function, I look outward and look at the possibilities. So that gets me out of that that state. So in other times, if you're looking, I don't know, what's another example? Okay. Yeah. So. Yeah. Everyone hear that? Anyway, all right. Yeah, so basically developing your auxiliary function. Also, I've sort of mentioned before, as in being familiar with how you actually react in stress situations, so, and what your thoughts and behaviour are doing. Yeah. Another guy called Eric Thor. Yeah, this guy's really is an INFJ. He had some interesting thoughts. So he said, I've got the link to this article he wrote, but he basically said, like a lot of people say to, like the inferior function is the gateway to your subconscious realms. So to developing that sort of, you can go deeper into yourself. Whereas he was saying, basically accepting it for what it is, and rather than sort of developing it, you have to sort of read the article a bit more. You can delve